Yeah. So just as we have these operations, addition, multiplication, division, and subtraction, where you are given a whole number like 3 plus 2, which is equal to 5, 6 plus 3 is equal to 9, or where sometimes we are given 3 times 2, we have 6. Let's say 5 times 2, we have 10. Then we have, let's say at times 2, we'll have like 10 minus 5 is equal to 5. 6 minus 5 is equal to 1. And 7 minus 4 is equal to 3. And at times we have 10 divided by 2, we have 5. 25 divided by 5, we have 5. This kind of thing. Now what happens to fractions? These are whole numbers, okay? These are whole numbers. Now what happens to fractions? When you are asked to add a fraction to a fraction, what happens to it? When you are asked to multiply a fraction to a fraction, what happens to it? If you are asked to multiply a fraction by a fraction, if you are asked to divide a fraction by a fraction, what happens? So that is what we want to look at. So let's assume that we are given 3 over 5 plus let's say 6 over 4. What happens? Now over here, when we were dealing with whole numbers, we just added them straight up. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. But with fractions, if the denominators are not the same, you have to find LCM. You have to find a common number to the 5 and the 4. You have to find a number that is common to the two of them. So let's say we want to find LCM. So LCM is least common multiple. So you find multiples of 5 and find multiples of 4. Then you look for the number that is common to the two of them. Now let's look at multiples of 5. Multiples of 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Let's look at multiples of 4. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 in that order. Now which of the numbers over here is common? You can see here, you can see here. It is 20. So now 20 is our LCM. So anytime you are adding a fraction to a fraction, you always have to find the LCM. Always. So our LCM is 20. How many times will 5 go into 20? It is 4 times. That 4, you multiply it by this 3. So 4 times 3 will give you the 12. Then you bring your addition sign. How many times will 4 go into 20? 5 times. So that 5 times 6 will give you 30. Do you get it? Now you can now add 12 plus 30, which is what? 42 over 20. Now you have to leave your answer in the simplest form. So 2 will go here how many times? 21 times. And 2 will go here how many times? 10 times. Now you have what? An improper fraction, because the denominator is smaller than the numerator. So you have to leave your answer in a mixed fraction. So how many times will 10 go into itself? Sorry. How many times will 10 go into 21? 2 times. Okay, 2 times. 2 times. Then remainder what? 1 over 10. So this is how we deal with the addition of fractions. Okay, so even if the fractions are maybe 3 or 4, you always have to find a common denominator, a denominator that is common to the 3 or 4 of them. So if it is 3 of the fractions, you look for a common denominator or LCM. Sometimes when you don't want to find the LCM, just multiply the two of them together. Okay, the answer you get, use it to form your LCM. After the solution, just break it down to the lowest term, then you get the answer. Do you understand? So now we'll take the multiplication, but note, whenever the denominators are the same, like 4 over 10 plus 14 over 10. Whenever the denominators are the same, just add this one to this one and go. You get it? So this is going to give us what? 18 over 10. That's all. You get it? And you can now change this one to a mixed fraction. Do you understand? Now, the next thing we want to look at is when we were handling the addition. After the handling of addition, we did what? Multiplication. So let's move on with multiplication. Now, one thing you must notice that whenever you are asked to multiply two fractions together or two or more fractions together, you are not going to do what? You are not going to find LCM. Both multiplication and division, you don't find LCM. If I give you 3 over 4 times 10 over, let's say, 6, don't go and say don't go and look for LCM of 2 and 6. All you have to do over here is to multiply them direct, this by this, this by this, and you write the answer here. So 3 times 10 will give you what? 30 divided by 4 times 6, 24. That's all. You don't find LCM. Multiplication of fractions are the simplest ones that you can see, because you just have to multiply direct and break them down. So at times we have 3 over 4 times 10 over 6. If you realize that the numbers that you are coming to multiply are too huge for you, just break it down. You realize that 3 will go into itself 1. 3 will go here how many times? 2 times. 2 will go here how many times? 2 times. And 2 will go here how many times? 5 times. So at the end of the day, you are having 1 over 2 times 5 over 2. Now you have the smallest numbers, so you can now multiply them. So 1 times 5, we have 5. 2 times 2, we have 4. And 1. Do you understand? So now, don't say that because the denominators are the same, you are only multiplying this, getting 5, and repeating this to be, let's say, 5 over 2. No. When you are doing multiplication, when you are dealing with multiplication, just multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together, and go. If you realize that the figures are huge and there are some that you can cancel out, just cancel them out and we move on. You get it? So in multiplication, we don't find LCM. In multiplication of fractions, we don't find LCM. Now, let's assume you have something like this. 40 over 100 times 15 over 20. You realize that if I want you to multiply this thing, even though it is easy, you think that you get huge figures. So the best thing you have to do is to look for common factor. Now, you realize that 20 will go into itself once. 20 will go here how many times? 2 times. At times, you can't even remember that 20 can go into this, or maybe per the number that is given to you. So what you have to do is that you use 2 first. So you use 2 first. Let's say this place is 40. So 2 will go here how many times? 10 times. 2 will go into 40 how many times? 20 times. Okay, now 10 and 20, they still have some numbers in common. Let's say 2 again. 2 will go here 5 times. 2 will go here how many times? 10 times. Now 5 and 10, they still have something in common. So 5 will go here 1, 5 will go here 2. Then you are still coming back to this, the first one that we got. Now you ask yourself, how many times will 5 go here? 3 times. You get it? How many times will 5 go here? How many times will 5 go here? 20 times. So 20. Now we'll be having over here, now the 2 is over here, this 2 is over here, so we have 2 over 20 times now 3 over what? The 1 over here. Have you seen? Now you can multiply. 2 times 3 is equal to what? 6. And 20 times 1 is equal to 20. Now you can break this one down again. Do you get it? Now, if you have 2 over 20 over here, you can still break this one down. Whereby 2 will go here 1, 2 will go here what? 10 times. So we have 1 over 10 times 3 over 1. Now, when you break this one down, 2 will go here 3 times. 2 will go here how many times? 10 times. We are having 3 over 10. Let's look at this. Here times here is what? 3. 3. Here times here is what? 10. So at the end of the day, we have the same answers. No matter how you do it. So if you go and get a question that you are solving and maybe you look on somebody's work and you realize that the person is using this process and you are using this process, it doesn't mean that you are wrong. Just focus on what you understand and get your final answer. At the end of the day, you are one person is getting 3 over 10, another person is also getting 3 over 10. The same answer but different procedures. Do you understand? So now this is the multiplication of what? Fractions. So now when you are multiplying fractions, just note that you are not finding LCM. You are not finding LCM. We'll be solving more of the questions. We'll be solving more of the questions on this too. So if you don't understand what I'm saying now, when we are solving the question, you will find problems. Okay? So what you have to do is that, let's say we have question 1. 15 over 16 times 4 over 75. If I ask you right now that, if I ask you right now to multiply 16 by 75, you'll be scratching your head. You will say that, oh, the numbers are too huge, I have to use pen. And so what you have to do is that you ask yourself, how many times 4 go? Can 4 and 16 break itself down, or do they have something in common? Yes, they have something in common. They have 2 in common. They have 4 in common. So 2 will go here. 4 will go here how many times? Once. And 4 will go here how many times? 4 times. Now 15 will go into itself once. 15 will go into this place how many times? 5 times. Okay. So we have 5 times over here. Do you understand? Now, we now have 1 over 4 times what? 1 over 5. Can't you multiply this? 1 times 1. 4 times 5 is what? 20. So at the end of the day, your last answer is what? 1 over 20. Do you understand? Now, so this is how to deal with multiplication of fractions. Don't get yourself confused by looking for LCM. We don't find LCM when dealing with multiplication of fractions. All right, so we move. Now, let's look at division. Now, when you are dividing a fraction by a fraction, the first thing you have to do is that just maintain the first fraction. Okay? Change the sign, the division sign to multiplication sign, and reciprocate the second fraction. Let's say we have a over b divided by c over d. You have to repeat the first one, which is a over b, then change this sign to a multiplication sign, then you reciprocate the cd to what? D over c. You turn it upside down. Once you change the sign, you turn this one what? Upside down. Do you understand? So now you now multiply direct. Here times here will give you what? Because we are already done with multiplication. So when you do it like this, you can now go back to the first principle of multiplication. Do you understand? Multiplication of fractions. So a times d is what? AD. Then b times c is what? BC. You are done. Do you understand? All right. So this is also about what? The division of. So the first rule, when multiplying and dividing a fraction by a fraction you don't find LCM. When multiplying or dividing a fraction by a fraction, you don't find LCM. Keep this in your mind. Do you understand? Keep this in your mind. Never do that. Just multiply the numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. If it is a division, repeat the first fraction, change the sign to the division sign to multiplication sign, then you do what? You reciprocate the second term. Do you understand? Good. So that is also about the division of fractions. Now let's look at subtraction. Subtraction, what do you have to do? You have to find LCM. So let's group them like this. When you are adding or subtracting a fraction, you have to find what? LCM. But when you are multiplying or dividing a fraction by a fraction, you do what? You just multiply direct. Do you understand? You don't find LCM in that term. So when we'll take a full question, then we'll try and solve a BODMAS question. You get it? Now let's go this way. BODMAS. Now this one stands for what? Bracket. This is off. This is division. This is multiplication. This is what? Addition, and this is subtraction. Now, when dealing with BODMAS and you see any fraction in brackets, the first thing that you have to do is to make sure that you remove the bracket by solving the problems in the bracket. Then after that, if you see any off, meaning multiplication, whenever you see off, you have to multiply. Just like the way we handle the multiplication direct. That's how you multiply. Then followed by division. You don't go when you see addition sign and you go and you think that addition is cheap, so you go and do addition before you come and do a division. Your answer will be wrong. You get a different answer. So you always have to look at division first. If there is any division sign in it, make sure you maintain the first one, reciprocate the second one, change the sign of division to multiplication, then carry on the operation. Then after that, look at the multiplication. If there is any multiplication sign in it, after the division, go to the multiplications. Then if there is an addition, make sure you solve the addition before subtraction. If you don't know, you go and subtract because you think the figures over there are easy, so you are going to subtract before you come back to addition. You get it wrong. That's the same way if you do addition before you come to remove the bracket, or if the addition is inside the bracket, the addition fractions is inside the bracket, that's when you can remove it. You are removing the bracket, so there's no problem with that. But the moment it is outside the bracket and you try to solve it before coming to the bracket, the answer you will get will be different. So you can realize that you'll be in a class of maybe a class of 10, and everybody will get a different answer. As for mathematics, when you solve, you get an answer. No matter what you do, when you solve any mathematics, you get an answer. But it is left to the master to tell if the answer is correct or not. You get it? So you can realize that you are in a class of 10 and everybody is getting different answers. The same question, but everybody, there's no. Do you get it? That's the power of a BODMAS. Do you get it? So all I want you to do for me right now is to master addition of two or more fractions, subtraction of two or more fractions. With that, to addition and subtraction, you find what? LCM. Then the multiplication and division, you do what? You just multiply them direct. the multiplication, you multiply the numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. If you see any two terms common, cancel them out with a common factor. Then when you come to division, maintain the first one, change the sign, and reciprocate the second one. Then you multiply them direct, and you go. Do you understand? Good. So with that, since you know how to add, you know how to multiply, you know how to divide, you can now handle the BODMAS. And you know that the first one is bracket. So the first rule, first one, second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Do you understand? So now, if you are operating in BODMAS and there's no bracket, don't go and get the bracket. Don't go and form the bracket yourself. If there's no bracket, look for off. If there's no off, look for division. If there's division, solve it. Okay? If there is no division and there's only multiplication in it, make sure you handle the multiplication. Then you move to addition. If there's no subtraction, leave it like that. Don't go and set your own questions by bringing brackets, bringing off, bringing subtraction, whilst it is not in the question. Do you understand? Always remember that. So this is a BODMAS. So we'll be taking some few questions, then we see how to handle them. I hope you understand. So this one, always find LCM. Now, at times you realize that they will give the thing to you, the question to you in a mixed fraction. Let's say 3 whole number 4/2, or plus maybe 6, 2 whole number 5/3. Maybe you have something like this in bracket. Please, before you do this, make sure you change it to what? An improper fraction. You multiply this by this, you add the answer to this, or you add this to the answer. Then you repeat the denominator. So 3 times 2, 6, plus this 10. So we have 10/2 plus. It's still in bracket. You still haven't removed the bracket, so it's still in bracket. Plus 2 times 3 is what? 6. 6 plus this is what? 11. So we have 11/3 over here. So now you still haven't removed the bracket. You only remove the bracket when you finally find the LCM of these two, or a common denominator for the two, and their common denominator is going to be what? 6. 2 will go here how many times? 3 times. 3 times this, 30. 3 will go here how many times? 2 times. 2 times this, 22. So we have 22. Now the next is what? To simplify this, 30 plus 22. Please, if you know you can't do the straight addition, you are not good. Go back to class 3, where you are taught 30 plus 22, like this, something like this. Then you have 0 plus 2, you have 2, 3 plus 2, you have what? 5, which is what? 52. Then you come back here, then you come and write your what? 52/6. Do you understand? Do you understand? So if any other simplification is there that you have to do, then you carry on from there. I hope you get it clear. All right. So that is about that. Always don't say that I know will always send you somewhere. If you know you don't know, you are not really fast in addition, like straight, like someone will see this and feel, oh, this 52, this 2 plus 3 is 5, then 0 plus this is 2, so 52. Go back to this. You are solving the question for a mark, so go back to this, get your answer, and come and write it. Nobody is going to laugh at you because of you doing this at that stage, but it is good you master this one so that you work very fast. Do you understand? So as time goes on, you will be familiar with all these things and you move. You understand? So we'll be taking the BODMAS.